Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies I Watched Last Month. My room is currently messy, so welcome to my basement. Anyways, I watched a lot of stuff this month, and I want to keep this kind of short, so let's just get right into it. Now, if you've been watching this series for a little while now, you know I usually just improv everything I'm gonna say, and I just let my reviews for stuff come to me. Not for this first movie. This movie was so bad, and I didn't enjoy it so much that I had to write down a review for it. Why do people like this movie so much? It's pretentious mumblecore with almost nothing interesting to say that only gets interesting an hour in. And even then, it's still nothing special. The symbolism that is in it is blatant and obvious, and not clever in the slightest. I'll give it this much, it looks pretty to look at. It's got nice cinematography, and the art direction and production design is okay. But that doesn't save this movie from being a complete uninteresting slog to get through. I went into this movie really excited. I'd heard nothing but good things about it. It was one of Jessica Chastain's favorite movies of the last year, and a lot of YouTuber reviewers that I really respect also said they loved it. And I just don't see it. It was bad. It was pretentious. I hated it. I'm never going to watch it again. I went into this movie because I liked District 9 and I'd heard amazing things about how fantastic the special effects were. When I told this to a friend before watching it, that friend responded, "Sure, Hitler might have had nice handwriting. That doesn't mean he was a good person." And yeah, that pretty aptly describes my experience with this movie. It's so unfortunate because I went into it knowing that it had horrible reviews and everything, but I was hoping it would be good, that I could see something I really enjoyed in it. And moreover than any movie I have ever seen, this movie perfectly shows just how important an ending is. With a movie that's already bad, having an even worse ending just makes it unpleasant all around. A good ending could have saved this movie, and it didn't. The ending that was given to it's mind-boggling how bad it is. And there's no reason that this idea shouldn't have been good. It's been done before with things like RoboCop or Ghost in the Shell, but it was a nice mix of those things, and it could have worked so well. The only real reason I went into it optimistic was because it's got Dev Patel in it, and I love Dev Patel. And the reason I go on about Dev Patel so much is that he's able to take bad scripts. He's able to take anything he's in and easily be one of the best parts of it. That's just how good an actor he is. Even in The Last Airbender, a terrible, terrible movie in every way, he gives it his all, and it totally shows. Regardless, this movie is a dumpster fire, and I don't recommend it to anybody. It's terrible when it never should have been. Speaking of Ghost in the Shell a moment ago, I watched Ghost in the Shell. It was mediocre. Maybe it was because I was watching it with subtitles and that might have taken away some of the emotion that I could have gotten with the English translation. Either way, I didn't enjoy it all too much. It had some cool ideas, but I just found it kind of boring. Again, if I had watched the English translation, I might have enjoyed it more. I can't say. Sherlock Holmes was enjoyable for the most part. It was really, really slowly paced. For only a 2-hour movie, it felt longer than Avengers Endgame, which is saying something. Hotel Mumbai sure was a movie that I watched. Like, I knew it was a disaster movie, and not many disaster movies really had great character development or anything, but this movie set it up like it would have that. And then it didn't. The movie just kind of ended. Which sure, that might have been how the real situation happened, but even in disaster movies where the only thing you're rooting for is that the character needs to get out alive, it would be nice for character development to happen, to have our main characters go through an arc. That doesn't really happen in this movie. It's certainly a movie that I watched. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad. That's really it. Samurai Cop was amazing, but you already know that. The Terminal was okay. It had some really great high moments and some really weird low moments that didn't make sense. Most of this movie just feels like things happening because the story has to keep going, and that's never a fun feeling when you're watching a movie. I hated everything with Catherine Zeta-Jones's character, and I'm glad she wasn't as involved as the marketing said that she would be. But Tom Hanks gives a great performance, and even though the ending just kind of happens with the conflict just dissolving, I enjoyed it. I didn't really like the Royal Tenenbaums going into it, but since then it's grown on me. But I can't totally explain why. I'll just say, I don't know, it's not what I expected. I enjoyed it. I really can't put more words to it than that. The Florida Project was horribly depressing and it was great. It didn't treat its audience like it was stupid. It would just let the viewer decide what happened. And I really appreciated that. Not enough movies do that. I don't have a whole lot to say on it. It's on Netflix. I definitely recommend you check it out and form your own opinion. Django Unchained was great, and I knew it would be going in, but it didn't end at all how I expected. The only thing that I thought throughout the entirety of Grave of the Fireflies was just, oh, this is so sweet. Like, yeah, I was sad and felt awful for a large portion of the runtime, but it was that kind of awful feeling that you get that, I don't know. Yeah, this movie was amazing. It didn't blow me away, but Now, it's a difficult toss-up between my first and my second favorite movies that I've seen this month. And with the second one, I'm really gonna have to think about it a little bit more because it might surpass number one at some point. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was incredible. This movie felt like a warm hug, just telling you that it would be okay, even though it may never be okay. It was so clever, and I loved just seeing the whole picture come together, and the way that the memories were erased, just how the little things, like the book titles disappearing on the bookshelves and stuff, just things like that. Everything about this movie is sensational. It's definitely my favorite of all of Charlie Kaufman's movies that I've seen thus far. And that's saying a lot, because he's written a lot of good things. But yeah, I can't wait to watch it again, because even though it made me feel terrible, it made me feel good at the same time. And movies that confuse you like that emotionally are some of my favorite things. As for number one, Parasite, I finally saw it. It's amazing. I've seen it twice so far within the past week, and I'm still stewing on a lot of the ideas that it brings up, and I'm gonna watch it again sometime soon. This movie was incredible, and I can't recommend it enough. It's so accessible to anybody. Even, I watched it with my parents, who never watch foreign language movies, and they both said that the subtitles didn't get in the way at all. It's super accessible, and I recommend it to anybody. I know I've said that already, but I love this movie. It absolutely deserved its Best Picture win, and anybody who even feels like debating that is just wrong. I loved it. It's on Hulu. Watch it as soon as you can. It's amazing. As for TV shows and stuff I've watched this month, not a whole lot to say, but let's get into it. I watched the first season of Silicon Valley. I enjoyed it. I was going to keep watching it, but then HBO renewed its contract with Hulu and Amazon Prime and removed all of their shows and movies that were on there. So now I can't do anything, and if you can't tell, I'm pretty upset about it. Speaking of HBO, I started John Adams, made it 3 episodes in, really enjoyed it, can't finish it now. A few months back, I started the 3rd season of The West Wing, and now 3 or 4 episodes later, I finally finished it. This just affirms to me that Aaron Sorkin is my favorite writer. I love his style. It's so good. The season finale of this one in particular just cemented in my mind that this is one of the greatest shows ever made. I can't say enough words of praise for this writer and for this series. If you have Netflix, I definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, that's it for this month. And stay tuned, because within the next few weeks, I'll be releasing my first episode of my favorite artists. And, spoiler alert, it's a long retrospective on the musical career of my favorite musician, Dan Avidan. So yeah, get excited for that. It'll be coming within the next few weeks to the next month. So, y'all have a good night.